Hello, welcome to our lesson 2 for the ABRSM Grade 3 Theory of Music. Today we'll be looking at grouping of notes and rests, and we'll be looking at this in context of compound time signature, specifically for 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8, because those are the three compound time signature we'll be concerning ourselves with for grade 3. As you move on to other grades, definitely you'll get to know more about other types of compound time signature. But if you missed out the what compound time signature is all about, how we count compound time, please refer back to lesson 1 before coming back for this lesson 2. The learning objective is as follows. By the end of this class, we expect that the students understand rules for grouping notes in compound time, and also rules for grouping rests in compound time. And definitely, we will be dealing with a new note that we've not dealt with in grade 1 and grade 2. We've left the note for quite a long time, and that's the demisemiquaver. We'll be looking at how to deal with demisemiquaver notes and rests, how to group them, how it works, both in simple and compound time signature. So let's delve into it straight on. So, what are some of the rules for grouping notes in 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8? What are some of the rules? So, as you can see, I'll go over them one after the other quickly. And generally, the first thing is notes lasting 2 beats are written as dotted minim, as you could see. When we talk about notes lasting 2 beats, we are talking about if this is a dotted minim, as you can see. So when we say 2 beats, remember when we talk about a beat in compound time, like I said here, when we talk about a beat in compound time, a beat is referred to as a dotted note. So if you see, for example, 9/8, 9/8 is not the beat in this music is not a quaver, it's not 8. Like, in simple time signature 4/4, 3/2, the beat is just the number down. So whether it's a crochet or a minim, but in this case, it's not the number you see down that is the beat, but the dotted equivalent. So in this case now, the beat here is going to be dotted crochet. So that you can divide the notes into 3 quavers. All right, so dotted crochet. So if you have 2 dotted crochets, 2 beats, that's why we say 2 beats, that's 2 dotted crochets. You don't need to write them like this as 2 dotted crochet tied together. No, rather you sum them up as a dotted minim. So what we are trying to do is to avoid ties as much as possible. As long as the minim still has a dot and it captures, the 2 dotted crochet, then it's fine. The main thing, we want to see a dot, something that tells us that this can be further subdivided into 3 parts. So, and that's why I gave you an example here that you could have this, for example, 9/8. So you have a quiver, and then you just have, a dotted minim instead of having 2 dotted crochet tied together. Then the next rule is a note lasting a full bar is written as it's written as a dotted minim tied to a dotted crochet. Okay, for 9/8 and a dotted semi-brief in 12/8. Please note that those are just simple things you need to know. So you don't if you have 9/8 and then you have a full bar, that you just want to put a note, so you have to complete the bar. So you have a dotted minim, which is the equivalent of 2 beats, like we said in the first part, and then an additional dotted crochet to complete the 3 dotted crochet beat, which is 9/8, and this is 4 dotted crochet beat, which is 12/8. The full bar equivalence is a dotted semi-brief. Now, when we beam, the third one now, beaming should reflect where the beats occur. So remember, it's very important when we are beaming, we don't block, we don't obscure where the beat occurs. That is where the dotted beat starts from. Even if you have to use ties. Yes, we say we don't want to use ties as much as possible, but it's okay. If we need to use ties to kind of show where the beats are, then it's fine to make the beat clear. So this helps to differentiate between compound time signature and simple time signature with similar pattern of notes. And I'm going to give you an example, because you could have the same set of notes, and if you don't beam them properly, you can confuse it to be a simple time signature when actually it's a compound time. So look at this, for example, 6/8, as you can see, 6/8. So you see, um, 6/8, you have this now. 6/8 means two dotted crochet beats. So the dotted crochet is the main beat, and you have two of them. So it means that I should be able to identify each dotted crochet, or where each dotted crochet starts. So if you look at this, for example, this is the first dotted crochet. So where does the other dotted crochet start? It starts from here. So that's why you can use a tie to join the first dotted crochet to the second quiver, to show that this quiver is the beginning of the second dotted crochet. You can't do it like this. For example, look at this. You can't do it like this, right? Because now, if you just say a meaning, I don't know, you have hidden the beginning of the second beat, which is, so we don't have a full dotted crochet here remaining. All right. So if you look at these two notes, they are all 6/8. This is also 6/8. I mean, six quavers. There are six quavers. There are six quavers. But it's hiding the second beat, the second part of the beat. I can't find it. It's so only what I have here is a crochet. It should be a dotted crochet. So one note is missing here, which has been eaten up by this note. The same thing you have here. If you look at this, for example, you could see that we deliberately didn't beam everything together, because we want to put each beat to be separate. So this is a dotted crochet, and this is a dotted crochet. So we beam the quavers that makes a dotted crochet separately, rather than beaming everything together. All right. So that's, if the reason we do this is because if you do it the other way, like what we have in the colored code here, it kind of signifies a simple time signature. In this case, 3/4, because you are just dividing these notes into two. So the three notes nature, the three notes nature of the compound time signature is missing here. So this is in twos, two, so it's simple time, it's 3/4. The same thing with this. This is 2 2, you cut a 2 here, you cut a 2 here, so it's like compound time. So you have to make it, if you want us to know it's a, sorry, simple time, this is simple time, 3/4. But if you want us to know it's a compound time, then we must see that dotted nature, that dotted note that is standing as a beat coming out clearly. So that is why we indicate that beaming should, show where the beats occur, even if you have to use a tie. Now let's move on to rest. There are rules, a lot of rules that guide rest, but please understand that some of these rules are things that we have looked at before in the previous simple time signature grouping of rest. Okay, so silent bar is, number one, is always represented as anywhere, whether it's simple time or compound time, by a semi-brave rest. No dots. So if you have a silent bar, a bar that is silent, just put a semi-brave, and whether it doesn't matter whether it's compound time or simple time. Second one is silent beat rest can be shown preferably as a dotted crochet rest, or you could also show it as a crochet rest followed by a quiver rest. So if you have a beat, remember when we're talking about a beat in compound time, we're talking about a dotted crochet. We're looking at 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8. All these, the beats are dotted crochet. The 8/8/8 there stands for dotted crochet, right? So if you have a beat, a dotted crochet as a rest, you can just put a dotted crochet rest, which is what we prefer to show, to retain that dot. Or if you want, you can change the dot to become a note, which is what? A quiver. So, but I said that this is the one that is mostly preferred. But if you write this in the exam, it's fine. So, but if you have one or two quavers, number three now, of a dotted crochet that are silent, how do you write them? So you have a dotted crochet beat, but not the full beat is silent. Maybe out of a dotted crochet beat, maybe just one of the quiver or two of the quavers that makes the three quavers in that dotted crochet beat are silent. So how do you do that? So let's assume that in a dotted crochet beat, it's only one quiver that is silent, as in this case. So you write your note and then just put a quiver. The quiver can come, if it's at the back, then it's fine, just put a quiver. So this is like a crochet, then a quiver. Or you can also say a quiver, a crochet. Okay? A quiver rest or a crochet. If it's also a quiver that is that is the note, and there are two quiver rests, then you can have, a quiver and then just say a quiver rest. Or you can also put, if it is coming before, if the two quiver rests are before, you can use, is preferably to just use a crochet rest, okay, rather than using two quivers two quiver rests. Yes, it can be used, but we want to retain, know what we try as much as possible. We want to try to know what is the main bit, and this is dotted crochet. So we want to reserve that crochet as much as possible. That's why we have this, rather than breaking it down. Now, what you must not do is, in case if you have, where in this case, for example, what you must not do is to change these two quavers into a crochet. And that's why I said that a quiver rest must not come before a crochet rest or note. So you cannot have a quiver rest here or a quiver note, whatever, and then you now put a crochet rest after it. No, think about a crochet as the head of the family or the head of the unit. It must always come before. It must always come before. That is very, very important. So crochet rest must always come before. Or if it's not possible for you to put the crochet rest before, or maybe you need to put the crochet rest at the back, you cannot put the crochet rest at the back. Rather, you divide that crochet rest into quiver, so that this quiver is not, acting like a superior over the crochet. I'm just trying to put it in my way. When either half of a 12/8, that is 4 dotted crochet bead bar, is silent, then you just use a dotted minim rest. So if you have a four dotted crochets, and two of those dotted crochets at the beginning is silent, instead of putting dotted crochet rest, just put a dotted minim rest, and that should. And now we come to grouping of rest in 6/8. We continue with our grouping of rest in 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8. Yeah, just like what we saw in lesson 2, grade 2, where we looked at simple time signature grouping of rules. Every new beat needs new rest. So what that means is that if you have a beat, for example, this is 6/8, you could see this is a dotted, this is a crochet, and this is a mini making up that, and then you cannot say, okay, this is a crochet now, and then you now say, okay, let me just use a crochet and a crochet to fill up. At least all this will give me 6/8. To know if you do this, it means 3/4, because I can't see the dot, I can't see the dotted there. So it means that the main bit is the dotted crochet. So this crochet note is not complete, it is missing a dot. So that means I have to change that dot to a rest to complete it, and that's why you have this quiver. So now with this dot, with this crochet note and this quiver rest, I have completed one bit, a dotted crochet, and then I now have the other dotted crochet. And the other examples also go the same way. You have, for example, here you have a crochet, then this dot completes it, this rest quiver completes it, and then before you now go into a new beat, which is a dotted crochet. So you have to complete a beat with rest before you now start a new beat. That's what I'm trying to say. In this case too, you have this quiver, so you can't just use a crochet. No, remember I said a crochet cannot come after a quiver, so it has to be quiver. Then you have this one now making as one dotted crochet. Then you have one dotted crochet. Now you have only one crochet here. This note is a dot already, so it's like half of the crochet. So this two gives you a dotted crochet, and this is also another dotted crochet. So it means I can identify where all the dotted crochets are in this note, whether with using, so I can use the rest to complete the note to make it a dotted crochet, or whatever the beat stands for. Semiquavers rest should be used to finish up a quiver before other rest follows. So, and also you can add beams over the rest to show the clarity. So when you have a note, for example, you can bring in semiquavers if you find out that semiquaver will help you to complete the note to make a dotted crochet. All right. So for example, this is a quiver, this is a semiquaver, this is a quiver. So you can bring in a semiquaver rest. You see, it completes this now a dotted rest, right? And then you have and then you can put the beam. If you don't put the beam and you just write it like this, it's not very clear. Putting the beam kind of tells me that everything here I sum it up as a dotted crochet. So this is, I can identify this as one bit that is a dotted crochet, rather than just scattering it like this. I don't know where the one bit is, except I do the calculations. But when you beam everything that has makes up the one bit within that also has a semiquaver, then it kind of makes it easy for me to follow in terms of the music. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to say quickly is the demisemiquaver, what you call the 32nd notes and rest. You know it already. It has three flags, that's the notes, and then the rest has three hooks like you see here. When they are beamed together like this, it has three beams because of the three flags that the note has. Demisemiquavers are beamed together when they can be replaced by a semiquaver. So when you know that, there are two demisemiquavers, which can give us, you can beam them together, or four demisemiquavers. Yeah, so like I was saying, the demisemiquavers, or what I call the DSQs, how to know when to beam them is when they can be replaced, number one, by a semiquaver. This is for simple time signature, right? So that means if you have two demisemiquavers together, you can beam them because those two can form a semiquaver. The same thing when you have four demisemiquavers, you can beam them because they can form a quaver. That's in simple time. When you have 8 DSQs, you can also beam them because they can form a crochet. So what that means, for example, is that if you have 6 demisemiquavers, you can't beam all the 6 together. You have to beam them in groups of 4, because that 4 will form a quaver, and in groups of, and then the other 2 you beam together because it forms a semiquaver. So you have to think about what I'm beaming together, what note does it form. However, in compound time, given a compound, so if you have 12 demisemiquavers, DSQs, you can actually beam them together because they form a dotted crochet, right? They form a dotted crochet. That's 12 demisemiquavers. But however, if you can imagine reading 12 demisemiquavers, it's kind of very difficult to follow. It's okay, it's right, but in terms of readability, it's normally advised that whether there are 8 or 12 demisemiquavers, you beam them in groups of 4. So you divide you just beam them in groups of 4 rather than beaming the 12 together. So you have 4, 4, 4. So you have 3 groups. And each of these groups makes up a subdivision of the main beat. So these 12 demisemiquavers would make a dotted crochet, but a subdivision of the dotted crochet, which is the main beat, is a quaver. So you have quaver, quaver, quaver. These 3 quavers, for example, here are subdivisions of the main beat because you have dotted crochet. What's the subdivision of the dotted crochet? 3 quavers. So each of the groups of 4 makes up a subdivision of the main beat, and that is how you beam demisemiquavers generally. Okay, so you try to beam them in such a way that each of the groups of beams you are doing is making a subdivision of the main beat. So you have to beam them sensibly. That is what I mean. Lastly, in terms of rest, there are no new things to say here because it's the same way we talked about grouping semiquaver and quaver rest, both for simple time signature and compound time signature. It's the same principle that applies here. You have to use a rest to complete a beat before you move on to move on to a new rest. So that is just the fundamental principle. And that brings us to the end of our class for today. So please note these are the assignments, and then you can walk through them and see how you fare, how you scored. I'll meet you next time. Bye for now.